Remember that scene in Austin Powers when he's like trying to turn around and he's wedged between these two walls and he can't figure out how to get out? I've been doing that a lot lately with my new favorite tool. You know, they say that if you have a hammer, then everything you see is a nail or something along those lines. And after owning a forklift for a week, I sure feel like when you own a forklift, everything feels like it requires a forklift. So on Trail Recon's channel, you know, he's got Marco, that's kind of his sidekick. And I think on my channel, my new sidekick is going to be forklift because I feel like I'm using this for everything now. In any case, this video is not about forklifts. It's about batteries, it's about water, it's about all kinds of other stuff. I just wanted to introduce what is probably going to be the newest character of the channel. I've got another trip coming up this weekend for the off-road trailer. And before we get there, I want to upgrade the house battery system finally, take the old worn out battery that's in it out of it and replace it with 3 fairly deep cycle batteries. And the reason that I'm going this route is going to become very apparent whenever later on in this video we wire it up in a way that we can weld. These days I'm camping almost every weekend and I'm using either the Jackery Explorer 1500 or this unit from Dometic. I loved the Jackery, it's still a great unit, but the Dometic is nice because it's the same storage capacity. It's like 40 to 41 amp hours, and I can get it in and out of the tent a little bit easier. The con, of course, is that it's not an inverter, it's just a 12-volt power source, so I keep those kinds of things in mind. But what I want to do with this trailer is I want to increase our amp hour capacity just to make it to where I can go longer stretches and use electricity more. And I want to be able to turn it into a welder. So we're going to have 150 amp hours of juice, and we'll be able to weld and make trail repairs in an emergency. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a helicopter that just keeps buzzing by. So it might disrupt our audio a little bit, but they're not looking for me, so I'm not worried about it. Anyway, we've got 3 batteries permanently mounted in the chassis of this trailer. And the reason that I decided to do it in this way, because a lot of people are gonna say you could save a lot of weight by going lithium, and there's a lot of other options, right? The reason I wanted to do it in this way is because I wanted to make it to where we could turn this into a welder if we need to. So the way that I wired all the grounds is longer than I needed, and the power wires and whatnot, so that we can change the way it's wired to change the amount of volts, because that's gonna make it to where we can output more power. So right now it's wired up in parallel, which makes it remain 12 volt. We just increase our amp hours. So each one of these batteries is 50 amp hours, which gives us 150 amp hours. That's, for those of you that don't know, you can do a lot with 150 amp hours. We're gonna be able to run inverters, all kinds of stuff, and never worry about running this thing out of power. And basically the way that parallel is hooked up is that you hook up all 3 of your positive terminals together, and then you hook up all 3 of your negative terminals together, and you're in parallel. Pretty simple. Now, if we put it in series, this is going to increase the voltage through every battery that we hook it up to. I mean, if we hooked up a 4th battery, then it'd be 48 volts and so on. But our amp hours ends up staying the same as one of our batteries. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna modify a welding clamp, a generic welding clamp setup that I bought off of Amazon to hook up into this battery orientation, and we're gonna see how it welds. I'm still deciding what would be the easiest way for me to wire this up in the field. The reality is I'm not going to use this as a welder hardly at all. It's going to be super rare that I would ever need to, so a little bit of inconvenience is not that big of a deal just because it's going to be so seldom that I would use it. But I am considering maybe cutting a separate
couple chunks of wire that I would keep in the welding bag, so I could just disconnect what is on the battery now, and then I could wire up my own welding configuration or something. But then I'm carrying extra parts, so I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We just need to use it a little bit, and then I can decide in the future if I want to make any changes or alterations.
First things first, let's make sure we're at 36 volts. So we got to go to volt, go to DC, see where we're at. We are at 38.13 volts. So it's more than 36 because all those little fractions add up. So if each battery is charged to like 12.6 or 12.8 or whatever, that 0.6, 0.8 adds up 3 times. So anyway, we are wired correctly. We double checked it. Now we just need to see how it welds. As far as rod goes, I've got some E7018 and some E6013. The 6013 is what I've mostly used in the past, so that's why we're gonna try it. But I DM'd my buddy Justin on the Fabrication Series. Great YouTube channel. I highly recommend it if you're into this stuff. And he recommended trying the 7018 just to see what it'll do with the battery setup. The material thickness is 1/8 inch to 3/16 on this first go, and then we're gonna do some 1/4 inch and see how it does with that. Well, it's burning hot. Let's make sure none of our terminals are catching on fire or anything. Nothing feels hot. That's one thing that I was concerned with, is that these posts would get hot. Nope, not hot yet. And we definitely stuck metal together. It actually looks pretty good. It looks better than it did when I was doing it up on the table. Let's do another pass going a little bit thicker. Actually, we'll use what Justin recommended. Okay, that is clearly too many volts for, it's too much power for this. It's just blowing right through that 8, like instantly. Let me downsize one size here and see if that's going to change anything. Oh, come on. I want to try welding thicker material. We are going to weld some 1/4 inch to some 1/4 inch and see if we get good penetration, all the other stuff. Because this is going to be a way more common type of size repair that we're going to need to do on the trail. So let's experiment with this real quick and see how we do. Okay. All right, still nothing getting hot over here, which is good news. All right, that was a lot of heat. Holy cow. That, with the right person welding, it could absolutely stick a bracket back onto an axle housing, no problem. Now, let's feel these terminals again, or studs, ice cold. This is great. I was hoping to find that we would have ice cold batteries whenever we're all done. Wires all feel fine. Heck yeah. The 6013, an 1/8 inch size, that with this amount of power, because we can't adjust our volts or amps or anything, that seems to work the best for me. It seems to start the easiest. It seems to weld just fine. We are at 3706. So we did have some voltage drop, but there's still plenty of juice left in there. If we had to weld a little bit, I think that this is somewhat, I think that this is really practical. I shouldn't be surprised. I've known about this technique forever. I've never had to do it. We've been pretty good at limping people off the trail without having to weld, but there's been plenty of times where if we had a welder, it would have been really nice. So now that I've actually done it, and I've tested all this, I'm super confident nothing got hot at all. All the studs feel completely cool. The wires all feel completely cool. And I think that I can put together a really nice little setup to help repair stuff on the trail. Now, I'm gonna wire this up in its normal configuration, which is gonna be 12 volt, and then we can get working on some plastic welding, which is something that I've been excited to share with you for a while. For anyone concerned about an OSHA violation, I had the weight of the trailer on this jack stand actually. So whenever this was tilted back, the jack stand was underneath the bumper and the weight of the trailer was actually on the jack stand, not on the forklift. I figure I'd get a little backlash for that, we'll see. But in any case, it sure made it easier to do all the wiring underneath there without having to do it on my back. Now, we're ready for some plumbing. Actually, I have a little bit more to do to secure the tank, and then we have some plumbing to do. I've got some ideas for special like sprayer adapters, and there's just a bunch of stuff that I've never seen before that I want to play around with and see if it's going to work.
I really need to add a high point vent to this system, so I heat up the surfaces of the tank and of our tank fitting, and I stick them together while they're gooey, and then as they cool down, it makes it to where things are tacked together, and it gives me the ability to work with these without worrying about them separating in the process. Unfortunately, I'm out of welding rods, so I'm going to do my best to get a really good root pass, essentially, with just using the two parent materials in my plastic welder. Then we're going to make some welding rod out of a little bit of the existing tank. We're going to lay that in there, get it super hot, and fingers crossed we're not going to have any issues with it leaking. We have a full water tank, and now we can do the big test. This is going to be kind of hard to see, but basically the way that this is routed is we have what is going to pull into our pump. That pump goes to this outside fixture right here, and we fill the tank through this guy. So you hook up a hose that fills the tank, and then I have a vent, and I wanted to make the vent, so the vent is over here. I put this fitting around right here. Man, I can't believe that is not leaking. That's crazy. I didn't even have any welding rod for it. But anyway, there's a fitting right there that's for the vent. I wanted the vent to be really long, and so it comes up, it loops really high, and then back down, and then dumps right out of the bottom. So whenever it's completely full, it will then purge the vent all the way out, and I'll know it's full. All right, fresh water. I hear it pumping. It's leaking out of this guy. Looks like something I need to tighten. Apparently from Amazon, these come loose on the ends here. Anyway, there it is. We have water. Let's go to jet. If we wanted to wash off a dog or spray off some dishes, there it is. We have shower if we wanted to bathe. It'd be a cold shower, but we do have shower. Ooh, that looks nice. It's working, which is very exciting. Now, we do have a small leak coming out of the tank. I'm sure that's because we had to cut and modify the tank, or it's one of the fittings just needs to be tightened up, but that's why we test these things. The water system was as budget friendly as I could make onboard water. I didn't want to just do jerry cans, because even that's not a super cheap option these days. Even going to like military surplus, it's not cheap to load a whole bunch of jerry cans in your rig plus a bunch of mounts. But this got so much more expensive than I thought it was going to be. And the big difference is the cost of pipe and fittings has gone through the roof. So even though this wasn't, I don't remember exactly how much this cost. I will link all the Amazon bought stuff in my Amazon shopping cart. But even though this particularly wasn't that expensive, I think the tank was like 150-ish, and the pump was like 45-ish. The pipe and fittings was like 280 bucks. This adds up super fast. Then the cost of wire, a fuse, a switch, all that stuff that you need to turn the pump on and off. You know, this is probably close to a $500 water system. And I think that for those of you watching, before you go out and you start planning your own onboard water system, there's another option out there that I think that you should consider. And yes, I work with Dometic and I love Dometic products. I'm not trying to sell you this. It doesn't make any difference to me if you buy this. I want to make sure everyone's aware of this because I think this is one of the most brilliant things that's come out in the off-road world or in the outdoor world in probably a decade. So this is USB rechargeable. It's a faucet, and this has like universal fittings. So like this is like a camel pack style fitting. You could easily integrate this into your existing jerry cans or whatever your water system is. But if you use it with the Dometic jerry can, this is how it works. Just hit the top twice, you have water. Hit it once, the water shuts off. And the flow is perfect. I've been using this for like the last few months. The flow is perfect for brushing your teeth, washing dishes, all that other stuff. And I don't remember exactly how much this costs, but it is way, 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 way cheaper than doing an onboard water setup. So even though I do think our onboard water setup is super gangster, I'm excited as hell to have all that weight on the very bottom. I don't have to carry jerry cans. We just get to fill it up. Super cool, very satisfying to use. For your average person who wants to have a decent water source on the trail and not have to dribble water out of the top of a gallon jug, this is honestly where it's at. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. I've got way more stuff that I want to do to this trailer, believe it or not, and we're just going to keep on pushing this to the max.